All right, so we've got the bumper mounted up on the truck just loosely. No adjustment and tightening down has been done yet. Right now, we're going to wire the winch up and route our wires. When you're routing your winch wires, you want to keep them away from any moving parts, any hot parts, and away from any sharp edges. So we're going to carefully run those up through behind the core support. And what we decided for today is we're going to mount the contactor pack right here, down inside the truck on the fender well, and then we're going to drill a hole in our inner fender well support and run the connection for the remote right here, right down the contactor. We'll have a good clean install and be easy to get to when you're in the trail. Pop your hood, plug it in, you're good to go. Right now David's down underneath just finding a good safe place to route the wires. We're going to run the positive wire due to the length across the top of the core support, clear of the hood, and wire it in as well. Then we're going to do our grounds and our positive lead to the battery terminal, and we've got a working winch. We'll run our winch rope in, put the hook on the end, and this will end the installation of the winch. And the last part would be just to adjust the bumper for fit and finish and make it look pretty. So we've mounted our contactor pack on the inner fender well over here. You can see General Motors is kind enough to put a Warren remote socket size plug hole in the side of their fender from the factory back in 1986. That is a beautiful thing. We drilled a small 3/4 inch hole next to the remote socket to run our wires through with a nice rubber grommet so we don't get any chafing in the wire or any chance of short out. We've got our control wires for our winch up here to the contactor, and we've got our power wire here. So all we've got left to do to make this puppy live is we're going to take our winch isolator, our wire isolator kit. We're going to place it over the contactor. We're going to put our wires in the respective place, F1, F2 armature terminal, and the positive battery cable, wired into the battery, and then we should be live and ready to pull some cable in and get this spooled up and on our way. As we talked about before, all the winch cables from Warren come marked F1, F2, and A. We have our isolator, and down here in the contactor we have F1, F2, and A as well, and then the power lead. So we're going to place this contactor over the top, and we know F1 from the labels go down here in this corner. F2 comes across and in to this right here. You may have to play it a little bit to get it to go in there, but it will fit. Reroute your cable up here through the isolator, and your A for armature is going to go right here. So now we've all wired up. We're going to take our lock nuts, our lock washers and nuts for our terminal connections, place them right here like so, and we're just going to hand tighten these for right now because we want to negotiate our rubber covers for our cables so they aren't too tough to work with. So I wouldn't tighten these down quite yet.
Okay, so we've got everything, as you said, all the control system has been hardwired in. You've got the remote in. We went ahead and ran our power to the battery. Now, one thing I will point out, when you put any sort of accessories like this that are straight to the battery, it's a good idea to take out the standard OE studs and get some aftermarket studs, because they have this threaded bolt on the end of the stud that make attaching accessories like a winch much easier. So Corby, I think we're ready to try it out.
And one thing I want to mention before we move forward, whenever you're wiring your winch to your vehicle, always run the positive terminal and the ground all the way to the battery instead of grounding off to the frame somewhere. We want a good positive ground, or a good positive connection and a good ground for the winch to operate off of, help reduce heat, make sure it's good and grounded to the battery. So without further ado, we're going to give it an old click test and make sure we got juice. And we do. So we are wired up correctly. We are ready to spool the rest of the cable on and get the bumper fit and finish correct, tighten it down, and we can close the hood and go home and have a frothy beverage.
And I'm guessing there is a good procedure of how to get the synthetic rope properly spooled onto that, and you're going to take us through kind of what...
We are, for in the garage purposes, we're going to spool it on there nice and evenly. We don't want to let the rope go between our hands and run through. We want to do a hand over hand load of the rope, as well as the guy loading the rope on the winch will actually run the remote, so he has the capability of stopping it when he needs to. But once we get the truck outside, proper technique for steel or synthetic rope is to tie the truck off to a tree on some kind of incline, have a friend sit in it for brake safety, and put a little tension on the rope and tighten it onto the drum, make sure it's good and snug on there. After that, you're ready to go out and have some fun in the woods, and if you get stuck, you've always got a reliable Warn winch to get you out of the woods in case there is a deep mud hole somewhere. So
great. So we'll put our Warn work gloves on and get this tensioned up.
Yes, sir. So the last thing to do today is put our actual hook onto the end of the synthetic rope. That's basically just put it through there, drop in your pin, and we got a cotter key right here that will bend over and make sure it stays nice and tight. For right now, we're going to leave it loose because we're going to take it back apart in here in a minute. But all we do now, take it in towards the winch. Nice finished look with the premium hook, and your winch install is complete.
Corby, I know I see a lot of guys, and I think it's a trend that's going around where they have D-rings hooked on and they'll want to hook their winch to it. What is the issue there? I know that.
Correct. You can do that. The only thing you want to be careful of is you don't want to put a lot of tension on that winch cable. So, for instance, if you have it against a D-ring, I'll bump this out real quick so I can get it out and illustrate. And put this in free spool so I can pull out. So, let's say we're across here like this. We got a constant rub place on this fairlead right here and tension. If you put a lot of tension, you're going to be like this all the time. Eventually going to wear a spot in that rope or in that steel cable where it's going to have a potential weak spot in it. So best thing to do is to pull it back into the fairlead nice and snug. That way it has a straight pull on it and there's no wear issues on the rope itself.
Okay, so we got this great new bumper installed with the ZEON winch, and you really have shown that this is a universal winch. It's going to fit a lot of different applications with the way y'all have engineered it. Very straightforward, an afternoon project really. Yep. It makes a huge difference. So, Corby, thank you for coming and showing us. Thank you for all your help. We'll obviously see you in the next episode. So thanks for watching this episode. We've got the bumper on, see what a difference it's made. We've got our Warn winch in. Stay tuned for our next episode where we're actually going to look at some lighting options for this bumper to really take this project to the next level. Thanks for watching In the Garage with Total Truck Centers. As always, in the description below is a link to our website where you can find a local store to help you with projects like this or whatever you're working on. We'll see you in the next episode.